Hey you, welcome back to the channel. And today I want to talk Andrew Yang and why senior citizens will vote Yang. So I was reading through some of my comments yesterday, and a viewer left a comment, a good comment, and it was in reply to my last video. I think it was titled, it was titled "The Dream Team" and about why Andrew Yang would win, and a variety of things. And he left a great comment, mostly relating to senior citizens and their role in Andrew Yang's campaign, and where do senior citizens fit in this? Um, and what is the benefit of the senior citizen voter voting for Andrew Yang? So we're going to try to take that apart today, and I want to read this viewer's comment he left because he made some very interesting points, and then we're going to kind of go over into uh, why I believe senior citizens will see Yang as the best candidate, and why they're going to vote Andrew Yang. So it comes from a gentleman by the name of Will Wang, and it reads, "Let's not get ahead of ourselves to assume Democratic primary is in the bag. Even though I'm a Yang fan, donated and socialized his causes to my circles, he still has to win Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada to build voting momentum. There is no do-over to get party nomination before facing Trump. The Superdelegate is another wild card leveraged by Hillary to rob Bernie. Yang has to win over the establishment, which is still siding with Biden." So I'm going to stop right there in his comment. You can't see it on the screen here, but I'm reading off another monitor. I'm actually here on Andrew Yang's website, looking over the Freedom Dividend and what Universal Basic Income is about website. Great website, gorgeous website. The best website I've seen from a candidate so far. But in the beginning of Mr. Wang's comment, he says that he seems like he's maybe not fully a believer. He believes he's concerned about if Andrew can win this thing, right? You know, obviously, and I want to start right there because I think that's very important. Imagine if you decided to run for president and you were a smart person like Andrew Yang is, right? Andrew Yang is one of these people who I believe he's like 10 times even smarter than how he comes off, because I believe your intelligence kind of gets reduced a little bit. There is the processing of what's going on with the mind and the brain and what's coming out of your mouth. But my point I'm trying to make is this: when you run for president, you don't run for president lukewarm, unless that's not a good strategy. You run knowing you can win, right? You don't invest the energy or time into this thing to think you're going to lose. And the reason I'm saying all that, I'm saying that to say this, that much like how Andrew Yang is putting his energy into this and running with this, as one of his supporters, I'm doing the exact same thing, right? And I believe he can win. And so the mentality and mindset you have to have going into something like running for president, you gotta know you can. It's no maybe I can win, right? You gotta know, right? You gotta know. It's no not getting ahead of anything. You are ahead of the pack. That's what being the leader of the free world is all about. You know better than everybody else that you can win. And Andrew Yang has to convince us he can, and he's done that for me. Maybe that's why I speak the way I speak in the videos about, why I believe Andrew Yang can win. Because it's no more maybe we can win or we might get to the White House if we could do this or that. No, we're past that point now. It's the make or break. We're all the way. So he talks. Mr. Wayne talks about Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada to build voting momentum. Now these are swing states, right? And here's the thing about the whole swing state situation, right? So swing states are these states, people, anybody can pretty much win. They got pretty much the same support levels, right? Now think about Andrew Yang and contrast him to every other candidate we've seen so far. Unlike ever before, Andrew Yang or any candidate I've seen in a long time, Andrew Yang's been able to. Probably the only other person I could see probably did it was Obama. Maybe Obama. He's the only presidential candidate I've seen in a long time that can actually just grab people from both sides of the aisle, right? In these swing states, he has a better chance of getting people to join him than any other candidate, right? So he is appealing to all sides, right? And so these states you mentioned that he has to win, I think he has a very good chance of winning him, of winning them. And then you talked about the super delegates and what happened with Hillary, and how Hillary was able to rob Bernie. Again, I think with somebody like Andrew Yang winning over the establishment, which is at this point in time, you're right, they are siding with Biden. But I don't think Biden's going to be able to hold on much longer in these polls. Interesting enough, Trump started similarly in poll numbers to what we're getting with Andrew Yang now. They have a very similar situation there. And there was the same commentary about Trump and the super delegates, but that actually worked different than we thought. Bernie and Warren, I don't think Warren's going to be a problem. I think Bernie is going to be the biggest problem. I really think Biden's going to start to get weaker and weaker. Statistically, a lot of candidates who start off big in the in the polls don't finish up like that. So I wouldn't worry a great deal about that. I think Biden. I think the mistake is that a lot of Democrats are making with Biden is Biden seems like Obama 2.0, right? They want Obama, really. They're trying to make Biden proxy Obama. But the problem is, as this campaign goes on, I think that Biden's going to get so deconstructed by the Democratic Party. When it's over, I don't think he's going to be leading like he is now. I think when they finish up with Joe Biden and his legacy, and when they really start to pull back the history on Joe Biden, and I can tell you, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but it's a lot. It's a lot about Joe Biden that's going to come out. And I don't think his numbers I don't think he's going to hold up like he's holding up now. So I wouldn't worry so much about what we're seeing at this point in time, with Biden's special interest connections. It's no easy journey. I wouldn't take things for granted. Have learned to respect ignorance because of elderly voters. Stuck-up Democrats like Biden crowd can't pass the mentality of giving them free money. It's not good for society. Yeah, again, kind of, going back to what's happening with Biden. Again, I'm relating that all to the Obama administration. I don't think Biden, on his own merits, so to speak, is really what they're after. Elderly has and it talks about this the mentality giving free money is not good for society. Yeah. Now and then you kind of going over into the elderly. Now this is probably going to be the most major problem, I think, with the elderly. The concept of hard. And many of us have heard the stories if you're old enough, right? You go back to your grandparents, maybe some of y'all great grandparents, and these people work from sun up to sundown. Was like no child labor laws. There was no, it was, none of that stuff, right? Like whereas children now, if you can't even work over 30 hours a week because if you do it, it'll be illegal, right? So their whole concept and mentality of you have to work hard to like do physically demanding work and just work hard to be rewarded by the system or for society to function properly. That's something that's deeply ingrained in them. And the next part is in a technological world, some senior citizens, not all senior citizens, because some are now learning a lot. They're taking up computers and a variety of things, but there's a lot of things going on in technology that maybe some of our honorable senior citizens aren't very interested in. So the advancements in robotics and artificial intelligence, it might not really stick to them right away to understand just how far it's gotten and how advanced it is. They might relate back to those very solid foundational things that made them the people who they are today, and that's understandable. And many of those are very good characteristics to have. But what we have to understand, and as our honorable senior citizens get to see, is that we're moving into a totally different world here. They see the cars driving themselves. When they go try to, they remember years ago when they could write a check and nobody's writing checks anymore. Many of them, in some cases, might need help using that ATM machine. They know they have to get somebody, and they're seeing this world change around them. And so it's coming to terms with them, and then they have to understand that these robots and these machines, all that hard work that people used to do, and those work ethics that we could relate to some kind of value system and from our work, that it's okay to find other value systems, right? They're gonna have to transition. We're gonna have to transition over that because the world is changing, right? This isn't the world it was 50 years ago, right? And so with that changing world, the whole idea of value from jobs and works changes. If you go back to the example I gave with the child labor laws, like they probably work 14, 15 hours a day, 18 hours a day, whatever the case may be. And the work week used to be a lot longer, right? Probably, it wasn't like 40 hours a week. We've actually reduced the work week. And so all of those concepts have come about due to technology and the changes, right? And they've seen all this happen. They've seen their work week reduce. So the point I'm trying to make is that senior citizens, I believe, are really starting to see the world for what it is. And they can see over the course of history that there's a reason why what caused these reductions in these things. And evidently, if the work week is reducing and the amount of work you put in is reducing, that's showing that there's something else taking that work, but also that the value system of where you get your values from and your purposes from, they have to evolve from that, right? Because the robots are going to be doing that. Now we might have to evolve into something creativity, right? And the senior citizens spending more time with their grandchildren and thinking about things that maybe are more important than that, right? Because what's more important than family? Uh, and also brings up, basically, elderly has a twice the turnout rate of young voters, and that's a fact. And of course, this is an inspiration of the video as we're talking to the senior citizens now to hear if they have any objections against universal basic income. And I would say let's and I'm kind of talking to the senior citizens at the same time. Thank you guys for watching the video if you're watching it. But I think with senior citizens, it's quite understandable too that they've seen the world that they're generations live in, their offsprings and their grandchildren and they see the struggle that they have, right? In today's, and they know this because many of these grandchildren have probably come to them and have been under quite a bit of economic stress, can't find jobs, and what have they had to do? They probably had to go in their pockets, and they've probably had to help their grandchildren and their children because of these conditions that are abound. So they are aware that there is a problem. So I think one great benefit they will get immediately from that is seeing that it's a system that is helping their grandchildren and children to survive what's coming, and to survive the jobs being automated away, right? In these swing states we talked about earlier, Iowa, New Hampshire. Um, and so I think they're aware of that. But our commenter here, he went on to say that maybe some type of reward system. He talks about a time credit system with Bitcoin. I love that idea about the time credit system with Bitcoin. And I don't think I don't think any of these are bad ideas. Like, getting the senior citizens to volunteer, and they get rewarded, in Bitcoin for assisted living, senior community housing, um, and a variety of things. Some specifically affecting senior citizens, like for them to go out and vote for Andrew Yang, and those things are all fine. I think they're great. Um, but I think in that Andrew Yang, by him creating this better overall system, because the reality of it is what we have to look at is when we take our senior citizens and we know Andrew Yang's already for Medicare for all, and so a lot of, as seniors get up in age, making sure systems like that are in place to take care of our seniors is going to be very important. But also with our senior citizens, in the universal basic income layout, they pretty much fall similarly to what people who are receiving other government benefits would, and that would be they're pretty much already being that the system's pretty much already facilitating them in that way. And by them voting for somebody else, it's not like they're offering senior citizens anything greater than that. In fact, I think what's happening is with Andrew Yang's UBI thing, it's better because it's making their whole neighborhoods and environments better, and their whole family is more economically safer. And of course, all of that's going to have a positive effect. Now you don't have a grandchild who got on opioids or drugs that you have to worry about, right? Because it's now reduction in that, because he doesn't have to go looking for jobs necessarily, and if he can't find one, there's that safety net for him. So in a broader sense, I guess the point I'm trying to make about all of it is that universal basic income does a lot of these things that indirectly that we're trying to that you mentioned as incentive for senior citizens to vote. I also think senior citizens' mindsets are totally different from ours as far as incentive. I think with senior citizens, they probably reached a point in their life where they want to see a better world for their children more so than maybe them. Might be a few exceptions, but a lot of senior citizens are, they're at their retirement time, and it's their golden years, and so they're not under economic distresses in that way. um and if it is, it's probably due to the medical issues and Medicare, which Andrew Yang already addresses in his campaign. But I don't think these are bad ideas with the credit systems, volunteering. You're right, I believe, about the elderly people turning out more. Elderly people, remember, young people, millennials, sometimes narrow short-sightedness. Probably a Friday, if it's voting day on Friday, and if you got that great date happening on Friday, probably gonna take that great date and not go to the voting polls. So yeah, you're gonna have a lot of that with the millennials, but also I don't know if I 100% agree that millennials aren't gonna turn out big. I think I believe millennials are going to turn out a lot bigger in this election than they did the last election. I believe a lot of kids in college who remember what happens to a lot of college students. They get out of college. Many can't find work still, and they're carrying a lot of student debt and a variety of things, and in need of extra cash. And so universal basic income would provide that for them, and it's gonna make their lives better. But we also have a more smarter generation of young people. So the point I'm trying to make is I could very well see them organizing at their colleges and universities and organizing voting days on a level and on a scale, bigger than definitely what we saw in the last election. And I would go so far as to say even something similar to what we got during the Obama administration, because we also have to remember Andrew Yang is an internet sensation. So that basically means that he's already got the attention of many of these young people. So I wouldn't be so quick to say that in this election we're going to see the same statistics of young people not showing up as you mentioned, because it might not very well go that way, right? Um, you talk about lower drug prices with his public option, and I agree with that. Now, yeah, now it doesn't. I would like to see some emphasis on specific things dealing with medical, with the healthcare portion of senior citizens, because I think specifically that's probably what they'd be more focused on at this point for themselves specifically. Why they're voting, but again, I think in the backdrop senior citizens are going to be in a mindset a lot of their families around them and making sure their friends and relatives are taken care of, and I think that they'll be able to come to terms with that and make those decisions, provided that they understand the great threat of the technology that's on board. And that's a kind of difficult part, because I've spoken with some senior citizens before, and I've showed them advancements in robotics and technology that they just couldn't believe was true, and had been out for years, and so it just shows you the gap they're behind in this. So I could see them going back and reverting back to the how they came up in their work ethics, and equating that with how things should continue on. And maybe it could have continued on like that, but as human beings, we want to advance and use technology, much like we've done all throughout human history. So that means times are changing, right? And just like how we got off farms with all this heavy John Deere equipment, they see now doing all this work out on these farms that they probably used to do, some of them when they were children or coming up. That's no longer an option, right? You got these big mega machines that are doing all these things. So that idea of trying to relate this work ethic idea to, oh, well, then it somehow is just giving free money to society, and that's gonna hinder society in some kind of way. I think is a misunderstanding of the situation, what's happening in our with our development. And again, senior citizens, I think the biggest selling point for them is going to be those children, those grandchildren, those family members, looking at how the country is going to impact them going forward. And yeah, those are my thoughts on that. So yeah, this is a good topic. It's a good topic, and senior citizens, the honorable senior citizens that we love so much, that do get out and vote, and sometimes like to stick with things they're familiar with, whether that might be a good thing or not. I'm gonna have faith in our senior citizens this time, and I'm gonna say that even if our honorable senior citizens don't quite understand or don't see a great um, individual advantage, the direct advantage to them, that they will see the great advantages it's going to do to their families, because everybody's affected by the disasters and the tragedies in their family, from young people getting on opioids, young people, who can't find work, that are just drowning in debt. And these things are going to help them that much a little bit more further to be able to get past that, right? But not opposed to any of these things that Andrew Yang's could do. And Andrew Yang's a very smart person, and I'm sure he's looking at, and considering what we have to do for our senior citizens. And in the grand scheme of the plan and the idea of the plan, I think it's going to work out well for everyone under Andrew Yang. In fact, to me, Andrew Yang's plan is the only plan out there that really works out good for everybody, where people don't get left out. Right? This is probably the only policy that's going right now, a set of policies that don't leave somebody out dramatically. All the other campaigners, from what I can see, we all get left something to be desired, right? So I hope that helps somewhat. I hope that somewhat answered your questions. Good question, by the way, and I hope you all keep them coming. But that's all I want to say in the video today. Just a quick reminder to you all, just like our commenter here mentioned, the social credit system. We already have one in experimentation called the Bitcoin NYK Universal Basic Income Program. And you can join it for free and start experimenting with this and earning real value that you can trade off for real money and cash if you so feel to do that. We're experimenting with it right now. So far, so good. We love for you all to come over and experiment with it. Free to you, won't cost you a dime. Will hopefully give you some value you could do something with. Great idea too for people who are watching the channel. Big supporters of UBI, but don't live in the United States, so your country's probably not even got on the radar yet or not going to do it. This is something you all can participate in, right? So this is you guys' prize as well. And we'll leave a link in the description. Check it out. See if you like it. Won't hurt you to try it. If you don't like it, you can always give the money back, or better yet, give it to somebody who needs it. But that's all I want to say in this video, guys. If you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and until next time, take care.